Eating not stressed, eating whole foods that are anti-inflammatory are the biggest keys.
What is your functional medicine approach to balancing hormones during perimenopause or menopause?
Some of the symptoms that women start to notice is more anxiety, more depression.
Welcome to the Hot Flash Health Podcast, where we're dishing out unfiltered truths about menopause with a side of sass and a sprinkle of grass.
Get ready to dive into the wild world of hot flashes, mood swings, and all of the other joys of being a queenager.
This ain't your grandma's podcast. No, we are here to talk our bodies, our fears, our passions, our desires, all while navigating this wild roller coaster ride of menopause.
So grab a glass of wine,
or three.
Kick back, relax, and let's enjoy this hot flash wave together.
I'm Courtney Mamusha, and alongside me is my fabulous co-host, Dawn Fable.
We're just two outspoken broads who like to call it how it is.
Now, without further ado, let's kick off today's episode.
Welcome to Hot Flash Health. Today, we are so honored to have Claudine François, a board-certified functional medicine and holistic health practitioner. She's also the powerhouse behind In Good Clean Taste. Claudine is dedicated to helping so many ambitious women break free from this cycle of exhaustion and being overwhelmed, certainly me, and really guiding women towards a life of radiant energy, unwavering focus, and true vitality. Who does not need that, right? As a former CFO of a multinational company, Claudine truly understands the toll that high stress, fast-paced life can take on a woman's body. After she herself battled chronic fatigue, inflammation, and hormonal imbalance, she turned to functional medicine and holistic healing, not only transforming her health, but really her entire mission in life. So today we are going to have Claudine speak to us about how she really empowers women to take back control, optimize their well-being, and step into the healthiest and most vibrant selves. We're going to dive deep into how menopause impacts energy, metabolism, and mental clarity, something we're all wondering, why functional medicine testing can be a game changer for hormonal health, the essentials of vitamins and nutrients and how they can support you along your smooth menopause transition, and how to fuel our body for optimal health without feeling deprived. All such important topics. So welcome, Claudine. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
And you look adorable in your polka dot.
Thanks. We're going blue polka dots today.
We just were talking, Claudine and I, before we got on about how middle-aged women, fashion, what's relevant, right? We don't want to shop at, Forever 21 or H&M, yet I'm not willing to go to like Ann Taylor or J. Jill yet. So it's this, crossroads of how to look our age, but fashionably our age, and don't look like our daughters with, belly shirts and these big baggy jeans, which seem to be in these days, which no one wants to see me in those.
No, you have to have a 20-year-old body type for those, I think.
Oh, totally. Well, speaking about having a 20-year-old body type, which none of us have, you have been so wonderful in really helping and empowering women to go beyond not just getting through menopause and really thriving. Share with us, because I know you had, a very personal experience with chronic stress and inflammation and what it did to your body. Share with us the story of how this all came to be.
Yeah, well, as you started to mention, I spent 20 plus years in corporate America. So anyone who has been in corporate knows that it is great at sucking the life out of you, right? Just take. And I happened to be in the produce industry, which is very male dominated, very cutthroat. And as the CFO, the head accountant, I was also in a very male dominated field. And I happened to be working at a company where all of the higher ups were all white British men in their 50s and 60s, right? So here I am. I was in my mid 30s, probably late 30s. And the amount of stress, the amount of undermining, like basically fighting to be heard, because I kept hearing, well, what does a blonde California girl know about numbers type of thing, right? But said with a British accent, so it sounds nicer. My body started to rebel, right? I thought I was healthy. I was doing all the right things, right? I was eating what I thought was healthy. I was exercising several days a week, but I started getting chronic migraines. I had terrible fatigue. I was gaining weight, especially in the middle, which we all know that's like the the place where we all just like, why am I gaining weight here? When you've done the same things for years and years, right? And so I did what most people do. I went to my doctor. And of course, my doctor wants to give me pills. They like the Band-Aid effect. They're like, oh, you have a migraine, take this pill. And I told them, well, I can't keep the pill down because I get nauseated when I have migraines. And they're like, oh, we'll take this anti-nausea pill. And I'm like, well, I can't keep that down either. And they're like, well, put it up the other end.
Oh.
Okay, how about we figure out why these things are happening? Why am I getting the migraines? Why is my body rebelling? But that is not how traditional medicine is set up. And so that is how I ended up gravitating towards functional medicine. I don't know if we want to talk about this at all, but I basically did this twice because the first time I didn't learn my lesson as to how I got there. But the first time I went through all of the testing, I did all the supplements, and I quote unquote fixed my problems, right? And because I realized that the stress, the hormonal balances, those nutrient deficiencies were basically the core of my issues. And that's how I came to understand that they are the core of many women's issues, including and especially during this time of midlife when we hit perimenopause up through menopause. And I knew so many women who were just living with the symptoms. I can't tell you how many friends or people that I know who are just like, yeah, I just wake up at 3. It kind of sucks, but that's my life. And I'm like, you don't have to live with this because these are signals. My body was giving me signals, like blaring red lights. This, you need to do something. Something is wrong. And that is what functional medicine does, is it looks at the root cause. What is the thing that's wrong? So you can address that rather than just, slapping on medication after medication and hoping they work, even though that's not actually fixing the problem, right? And if you don't fix the problem, it just gets worse. And that's why people end up on lots of medications.
Well, and that's why we're in such a precarious situation, both as a society and as women, because, so many of us have been through your experience where we've spent years and thousands of dollars and seeing every specialist or doctor imaginable, yet there's just dismiss and here, treat this for this and treat this for the side effect of this. And there's very, very few, I think we're getting better, but there's very few, physicians that will actually take the time to really uncover what the root cause is. And if we start from the inside and then go out, it's so much more effective, and it would save so many tears and, just feeling not seen, right? We're not seen as women. So thank you for sharing that experience. That's really important. Obviously, you are an expert in many different things, and certainly an expert in your own experience. But what do you think are some of the early signs that indicate hormonal shifts? Many women feel blindsided by menopause. And for a lot of us, it's not just the hot flashes and it's not the lack of sleep. There can be very interesting and different symptoms. But what, in your experience and, and with all of the clients that you've worked with, are some of the early signs that we can see as women?
Yeah, that's a great question, because the body is giving us these signals, these signs, before the obvious ones. You mentioned hot flashes, insomnia. I think when people start to get hot flashes or irritability or the telltale menopause signs, they think, oh, now I'm in menopause. But it's actually already been going on for quite some time. So the fact that it comes as a surprise means, to your point, that we aren't aware of the precursor symptoms, right? So I see a lot of women in their 40s and 50s who come to me with things like brain fog, fatigue, insomnia to some extent, like that 3 a.m. wake up, the irritability before they're getting the hot flashes, the night sweats, the quote unquote obvious signs. And a lot of them just say, oh, I'm just getting older, I guess. That's why I'm tired all the time. Or I have a lot of things going on, because many women in this demographic are, they have children that they're dealing with, and they also have parents that they may be taking care of. So they're in that sandwich generation.
Mhm.
So they may dismiss some of these symptoms as just, oh, it's this time of my life, or I'm just getting older, or it's just my circumstances. The other thing that a lot of women come to me with is this stubborn weight, right? It's like you've done the same workout for 10, 15 years. You have eaten the same foods forever. You do not fit in your jeans anymore. You're like, what happened? All of a sudden, your body has said, nope, I'm not taking this anymore. And so they have these inklings of things just getting worse and worse and worse. And that is really the time to look at, okay, what is my body telling me? What do I need to do differently? Because my body is different. And that's why I love functional medicine testing, because it is very targeted and it is very sensitive versus blood testing. It tends to be more broad, right? Because the doctors are looking to diagnose you with something. Functional medicine testing tells you you're on the way to. So let's pull you back and how to do it. So those symptoms are basically your body's way of telling you, pay attention. Here I am. That can be basically the warning sign that you're starting to head towards a change in your body, and things need to change.
Yeah, no, for sure. You talk about your functional medicine approach, and there's so many different approaches out there. And I've always been a huge proponent of the functional side of things because I think, like we discussed earlier, that's really a comprehensive approach as to what's happening in the core and working sort of from the inside to out. But what is your functional medicine approach to balancing hormones during perimenopause or menopause? And how does that differ from perhaps, going to your traditional OBGYN who most know very little about menopause, sadly, but talk to us about what the functional medicine approach is to hormone health.
Yeah, so the functional medicine approach to hormone health is a whole person approach, right? We're looking at everything. We're not just testing progesterone, estrogen. We are looking at all of these different aspects that can be impacting your hormones. So it's kind of like if you think of your body as an orchestra, progesterone, estrogen, maybe that's the flute section, or I don't know, the string section. And then you have your gut, which is like, let's call that the bass section, that being boom, 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 because your gut plays such a huge important role in not only the overall functioning of your body, but also your hormone health, your mental health. A lot of women, I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the symptoms or some of the symptoms that women start to notice is more anxiety, more depression. And that is because that is coming from your gut, because 90% of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. And when you start having gut issues because you're stressed out and your body is, when I say stressed out, it could be internal stressors or external stressors, right? So either the people annoying you in your life or the things going on in your body, all of that can congeal to become more stress in your body, which can impact your gut, which then impacts your hormones, which then impacts your brain, your mood. So we look deeper at all of these things. We look at blood sugar balance, which is huge for women in this time of life. Huge. I cannot stress this enough. And I think this has only really come to light in the last 5 to 10 years, how big of an impact this time of life has on our blood sugar balance and what we need to do because our body becomes more insulin resistant. Identifying the root causes like that insulin resistance, mineral imbalances, which are huge, adrenal fatigue. And then in functional medicine, we're creating personalized protocols. And that includes a lot of things. It includes supplementation. It includes diet. It includes lifestyle changes. Because as I mentioned, when your body changes, you need to change. And so unlike traditional medicine, where they're looking at a part of the body in isolation and they're giving you a pill or they're suggesting they take something out, like the number of women that I know who have had hysterectomies or gallbladders is staggering, about supporting the whole system, not just the hormones in isolation.
Yeah. You bring up such interesting points in there. Two things that I really want to touch on. One, this serotonin and sort of the mental health transition and experiencing more anxiety and more depression. I can't tell you how many women I've spoken to who are very dear friends of mine who are genuinely and historically been really just happy people. And they have literally said to me, Dawn, I cannot find joy in my life. I have so much to be grateful for. I have beautiful children. I have healthy family. I have a roof over my head, but I just cannot find joy. And that breaks my heart because I think we as women have settled to just mediocrity, and we will feel this way because we expect and we've been told that it's just something that we have to get through. And that's not the case. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And, for us women who are going through that, understanding that this is larger than us and this is hormonal shifts that are, impacting our neurotransmitters. And not being so quick to just dismiss, here's some antidepressants. So then you can gain more weight, then you can lose more sex drive, and then, you can not cry at all, which is just a sad deal. The second thing that you brought up, which again, being surrounded with such an extraordinary group of females who have all been really vulnerable in their experience, is the blood sugar and how your insulin resistance changes. And I think a lot of us who are such winos, including me, who love red wine, and 2 years ago I could, drink a half a bottle of wine, no problem. And now all of a sudden I'm having these resistance to wine. And I think it's the sugar in there because it's causing me to be awake at night. My headaches are getting worse. All of a sudden I'm getting hungover. I mean, I was like a pretty professional wine drinker. And now I have to say it's really been impacted. Is that a thing?
It is so a thing. I actually have a colleague who speaks exclusively about this. She is a recovering alcoholic, and she talks about, especially for women, the impact of alcohol. It makes us more estrogen dominant, which contributes to that insulin resistance. It contributes to that belly fat. It messes up your gut, which then impacts your liver, which then impacts your hormones and your thyroid. I mean, it's this, and your neurotransmitters. So it's a terrible slippery slope. And it is so hard to tell people, you really might want to consider giving up the wine because it is really ingrained in our culture as a way to relax, as a way to connect. It's a hard thing to, so for some people, it's a really hard thing to consider not including in their lives. But then when they do, they see a drastic improvement in their health and overall well-being.
Oh, that makes
I'm so sorry.
So sad. I love my wine. And, there's something that's very ritualistic about it. So
I've turned it into herbal tea. My ritual is my herbal tea.
Oh, man. That makes me so sad.
Fancy herbal tea.
Yeah. Well, along those lines of sugars and, excess of sugars and deficiencies that we have, what, in your opinion, being a functional medicine practitioner and seeing, hundreds of women that you have, what are some common nutritional deficiencies that impact women's health during menopause, and how can they be addressed?
Well, the two biggest things I see are magnesium deficiency, because when we are stressed, our body burns through magnesium. Right. And we need magnesium for heart health. We need it for, when you don't have magnesium, you can have more fatigue, more insomnia, more muscle cramps. I mean, it's used for over 500 different enzymatic reactions in the body. So and I see women popping magnesium pills like they're going out of style, but if they have gut issues, they might not be absorbing it. So I tell them, sit in an Epsom salt bath or a foot soak, put on some magnesium lotion or spray, like find a topical way so it goes directly into your bloodstream. Versus trying to hope that your gut is doing something with it. So magnesium's huge. The other thing I see a lot, especially with the women that I work with who are all go-getters, I got this, the woman who's in charge, the woman who gets things done, she often has what's called a calcium shell. And that is when your body is in chronic stress, it pulls calcium out of the bones and the teeth where we want them. And it kind of throws it over your body as a calming mechanism, because calcium is a very calming mineral. And when it's thrown into your soft tissue, it can end up as things like gallstones, kidney stones, joint pain, because it's a sharp mineral. If it sits in your joints, you can get joint pain, calcification of the arteries, which can cause high blood pressure. That calcium not staying in the bones, which of course, long-term can lead to that osteoarthritis, osteoporosis. That is not good. And I see a lot of women trying to compensate for that with taking more vitamin D, which is also not good because that actually negatively impacts your adrenals and your thyroid glands. So we have to work holistically to figure out how do we get, one, reducing the stress, right? Two, taking some K2 to help the calcium stay in your bones. When we do the hair test, I don't know if you've heard of the HTMA test, it gives us a holistic picture of someone's mineral balancing, and we can create a personalized formula for that. So calcium and magnesium are huge. I tell my clients, let's focus on leafy greens, healthy fats, omega-3 rich foods because we want to combat inflammation. Some people have issues digesting and absorbing proteins and fats. Fat is the precursor to all hormones. And of course, our brain is made up of a lot of fat. So if you're not absorbing fat, if you're eating healthy fats and you're not absorbing them, you're not getting those nutrients. So we look at gut health testing to determine, are you absorbing them? Do you need probiotics, or do you already have bacterial overgrowth? Everyone says, oh, I need to take probiotics. I'm like, well, maybe you do, but I don't know until I see your test results, because you could be just contributing more to the problem. So really the idea is to address those deficiencies and, through targeted supplementation and the testing, so that someone can really improve all of their, minerals are like the tugboats in the body. They get everything to where they need to go. So you need the tugboats to be online. Like, they don't want them to be on the strike. They have to be there. They have to be in the right amounts. And really the only way that I have found to do that, to find out what minerals people need, is through that testing.
Well, and that's, there's so much noise out there, social media and influencers and famous doctors and books, and making these sort of blanket statements, right? Like, women need B12 and women need calcium and women need probiotics, which actually might not really be the case, dependent upon what's happening on the inside. You could be essentially doing more damage to your body than really helping the root cause. So I so appreciate your methodology and really taking a look at the person, and being so comprehensive in that testing. And then, of course, looking at supplementation, life changes, diet, foods, all of the things.
If I get another TikTok video that somebody sends me, says, what about this supplement? I might just lose my mind.
Oh my gosh.
Because it really depends, right? It depends on you, like you said.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you've been such a wealth of information. What are some simple and sustainable habits that we as hormonal women can start implementing today for just a better hormonal balance? And then, my second question for you is sleep, right? Sleep, sleep, sleep. I hear so many women saying, I can fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep. I'm up, from 1 to 3 a.m. Like, what are a couple things that we can just do throughout our days and evenings to help make this transition a little bit easier?
I'm going to start with your last question first, because I spent almost a year working exclusively with insomnia clients. So sleep is very key, because if we don't get enough sleep, as you know, your body cannot rejuvenate. It can't rebuild over the night, which it absolutely needs. So when you have people chronically not getting enough sleep, it has a detrimental effect to our health. So let's start with the easy things, the bedtime routine, right? Making sure you're staying away from screens, having a relaxing, like a wind down routine, lowering the lights in your house, making sure your bedroom's cool enough, maybe doing a detox bath with the Epsom salts, doing anything to help your mind wind down. Because some of us, like breathing exercises, yoga, because some of us have that brain that won't turn off, right? We're just like constantly spinning. So those are the easy things. The other thing I would say, if you're waking up in the middle of the night, I find that there are 3 really common reasons why that would be. One would be you have some kind of gut bug that is stressing your body out, because gut bugs party at night. And so it kicks off your cortisol response and you wake up. Number 2 is blood sugar imbalance. So either you had wine before you went to bed, or you had something too sweet, or you didn't have enough protein, or you're hungry, and that stresses your body out and wakes you up. The third one is if you have mold toxicity, which sounds so random, but 45% of the homes in the US have mold. So it's actually more common to have a lot of symptoms and not realize that that's what they are. So typically we'll do testing to determine which one of those things it is and address it. So that's the more long-term thing. The quicker would be making sure you're getting your minerals, your nutrients, eating your dark leafy greens, which have a lot of magnesium in them, doing the magnesium, either the lotion, the Epsom salt bath, and having that wind down routine. So to answer your first question, which is what can women do? Like, what are some sustainable habits? I would say the easiest things are also the hardest things, right? Like you were talking about the wine. technically giving up wine is a super easy thing. You just don't do it, right? But mentally, emotionally, it is a hard thing to let go of. But basically, reducing your overall inflammation is going to be huge. And the four most inflammatory things are gluten, dairy, refined sugar, and alcohol. So, for a lot of people, that is a huge ask. Now, as someone who had to give up gluten for migraines, I had to give up dairy because it was killing my stomach. It may have been easier for me because I had an immediate detrimental effect. It's kind of like that Pavlov dog experience. Like you ring the bell and the dog starts to drool. For me, I would just start to see a piece of cake and all I would see is migraine, right? I'm like, I don't want that thing because that is going to make me feel horrible. So for a lot of my clients, I tell them this symptom that you've told me, this can be correlated to the gluten or the dairy or what have you. See the problem in your head when you see the food, right? Make that correlation so that it becomes like something kind of like, I look at my cat's bowl. I would never eat out of my cat's bowl, right? I just see the food, but it's not for me. You basically just see the food and say, it's not for me. I remember what it tastes like. It was great, but it's not for me right now.
I might have to start drinking shitty wines.
Yeah. This grape juice is great.
Oh, geez.
So that is one thing. The stress release is huge because we already have a lot of stressors. Finding a way to release it, whatever it is for you, if it's punching a bag, if it's going to yoga, if it's walking in nature, just find something that works for you. And as much as you can, prioritizing sleep, because not sleeping is a stressor. So finding the root cause of your sleep issues and addressing that so that your body can do its rejuvenation cycle overnight.
Sure. And for so many of us, and you touched on this a little bit, all of a sudden we're experiencing like gut issues, right? There's a huge increase in inflammatory bowel disease or ulcerative colitis or just gluten intolerances or celiac disease. I have to believe that a lot of that is the food and the crap that we're eating. I also know that, as we age, that our guts become more sensitive to that. But what are some things that we can do to really optimize our gut health? Because there's such a connection between gut brain health. If your gut's not healthy, then we're experiencing, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, things like that. So what do you recommend to your patients for that? I mean, I know it's individual to each one and you're going to have to do specific testing.
Mm-hmm. Well, but there are some key components, right? So eating healthy food. I think that's pretty obvious, but what does healthy mean? It means the anti-inflammatory foods, right? So I don't want to be a no person, but really the gluten, dairy, sugar, alcohol are just very detrimental to our gut health. So focusing on nutrient dense whole foods, right? Think of something that you can make if you can make it yourself, that's great, right? If it's something that you can't make yourself, that you have to, it's fabricated, it's processed, that's not going to be great for you. But making sure you're getting those healthy fats, lots of produce. Some women I work with can't handle raw produce, so steam it lightly or cook it, however it works for you, right? But having those nutrients is going to be really helpful. And then gut health is really important, or it's really contingent on your stress levels. Because the minute you are stressed, your digestion stops. And so if you're eating when your digestion is stopped, that food is not going anywhere. It's sitting there, it's rotting, it's going to the next stage without being further broken down. And then you end up with leaky gut. You have an immune response. You start getting food sensitivities. So eating not stressed, eating whole foods that are anti-inflammatory are the biggest keys.
Great. Now, moving into the illustrious topic of weight gain, weight loss, certainly weight in menopausal women is having its moment with all of the GLP-1s and those sorts of things. You have a really interesting part of your program with the Bye Stubborn Weight and really addressing, women in this stage of their lives and how to help them optimize their muscle mass and eat cleaner and get rid of some of that stubborn belly fat. Can you speak to us a little bit about your program? Because I think many of our listeners would be really interested in that and not taking the easy way out like I have and, get on Ozempic.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's the easy way out, right? We're all trying to do our best to address something that's changed in our body that no one's told us how to address it, right? So when it comes to that stubborn weight, it is about our bodies becoming more insulin resistant. So the first thing to do is to adjust the food, right? So making sure you're getting 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, which for some women sounds like a lot, but getting that 20 to 30, well, really, if you get 100 grams of protein a day, that would be amazing, because then you're more satiated. That protein, assuming your digestion isn't hampered or is able to absorb the protein, getting that protein is really going to help stabilize your blood sugar, which helps you become more insulin, or helps prevent you from becoming more insulin resistant. The other thing is making sure you're getting enough fiber. So if anyone's read Jessie Anchospé, she's the glucose goddess. She talks about eating your fiber, then your protein, and then your carbs. So she says, it's not that you don't have to eat carbs, just eat them last, because the fiber and the protein create this like mesh that helps your body absorb the carbs slower, so you don't have this huge glucose spike. But you may have heard of adding apple cider vinegar to your water before your meals, or even just having like a salad with a vinaigrette on your salad greens. That helps stabilize your blood sugar. So stabilizing the blood sugar is key. And then determining any underlying issues with your absorption of nutrients, with your mineral imbalance, with your hormone imbalance, those are all going to help as well. But yes, the strength training, the getting enough protein, having your vegetables first, and the overall looking at your health, those are going to really impact your ability to lose that stubborn weight. Say bye-bye to stubborn weight.
Oh, Claudine, we need more of you in our lives, and certainly more of you at Hot Flash Health. You've been such a breath of fresh air and such a wealth of knowledge, and really just giving pretty simplistic tips. You don't have to. I think that's the problem, is so many of us feel very overwhelmed by all of this, but it's really just looking at testing, looking at the whole body, starting with sustainable planning and determining the root cause of some of these issues. So tell us, because again, I would love to take advantage of some of your programs. You offer incredible resources. You have personalized coaching, you have functional medicine testing, you have a community support, the one-on-one programs. Tell us about some of your programs and how our listeners can learn more. And is this something that you offer from a telehealth perspective for people who are outside your geographic area?
Absolutely. I've worked with people all over the United States, Europe, Australia. So if you speak English or French, I'm your gal. My Spanish is rusty, so I can't guarantee that. But in terms of the programs, my flagship program is my Revive Your Vibe group program, where we meet for 6 months. It includes 3 of my functional medicine testings. It includes, of course, the group, a lot of quick to the point trainings, like you were saying, simple things that you can do. It is not overwhelming. It is really designed to help move people from point A to Z in a short period of time, giving them just the right amount of support. But if someone wants to start with something a little bit like kind of dip their toe in, I do a lab review consult. So let's say you've had your blood labs done, your doctor says everything's fine, everything's normal, and you're like, no, hell no, not normal. I don't feel fine. I will look at your labs from a functional medicine perspective and tell you what I am seeing and what I would recommend that your next steps be.
Ooh, I love that, because that's been the big challenge with a lot of this hormonal testing, and I've been through a myriad of it. You come back, you get one sheet that says here to here, and you're right in here in the middle, or maybe you're low, or maybe you're high. And then women are settling for that. They're like, well, if I'm normal, or I'm not way above, or I'm not, deficient in this, then okay. But we as women don't have to settle for mediocrity. We can choose to find someone like you who can help us be on the optimal side of that hormonal health. And P.S., we don't even know what the fuck it means to be low in progesterone, right? What does that mean? Is that the reason our hair's falling out? Is that the reason our sex drive is, going out the window? So to just have someone like you to interpret that and help us optimize that and not settle for the mediocrity, girl, thank you.
Can I get an amen?
Can I get an amen? Totally.
Not settling for mediocrity. I love it.
No, no. Well, we would love to have more of you at Hot Flash Health, but in the meantime, please tell our listeners where they can find you. We are so grateful for people like you. Thank you for being the voice of so many women out there who have felt dismissed and are not being seen, and really getting to the bottom of our root cause and helping us really optimize this bumpy road in our lives right now.
Absolutely. The best place to find me is on social media because I have to be there all the time. So go to Instagram, claudine.r.francois, or same thing on Facebook, and send me a note.
Oh, well, we certainly will have you back. I can't thank you enough. And thank you to our sweet Elizabeth Browning for sending you our way. She's wonderful. And if you're looking for Claudine, we'll have more of her on the Hot Flash Health podcast, and we'll certainly check her out on her Instagram.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Claudine. I appreciate you.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Remember, menopause may be a wild ride, but together we've got this.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Hot Flash Health.
Stream and subscribe to us on any of your favorite listening platforms like YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
And of course, share your thoughts with us. We love hearing from our amazing listeners.
And until next time, stay sassy, stay fabulous, and keep those hot flashes in check.
Yeah, girl.
Woo!